Welcome back to Voices of the Unheard, a podcast where we dive deep into pressing issues facing our society. I am your host, Raisel May Asistorillo, and today we will be reflecting on an eye-opening documentary by Atom Arroyo entitled Krisis ng Sikmura, which highlights the dire hunger situation across various communities in the Philippines, especially during the pandemic. And we were also diving deep into a challenging topic that holds immense significance for our future. What does a 3 degrees Celsius world look like? Based on the thought-provoking documentary by The Economist. Joining me today are my esteemed co-hosts, Mary Rose Logatok, Chazel Bagistan, Jaira Altea Paliza, and Rachel Ann Mancia. And we'll also be hearing from our special guests, King Rimar Robles and Kader Monchano, who will be joining us via phone.
Hi everyone. This documentary hits me hard. It sheds light on the struggles of people in areas like Tondo, Pangarap Village, Fairview, Camarines Norte, and Tanay. I was particularly struck by the story of Tatay Ben from Aroma Tondo.
Tatay Ben illustrates a crucial point about survival. He survives on pagpag, which is basically leftover food from restaurants. I admire his resilience and attitude towards it. He's not ashamed, which challenges our perceptions about puberty and the means people use to cope.
Absolutely. It is also a reminder of how societal stigma can affect individuals. Despite his difficult circumstances, he finds dignity in making his situation work. The bond he shares with his dog while sharing the same food is both heartbreaking and touching. It shows how survival instincts push us to adapt even in situations that seem inhumane.
Speaking of survival, I was equally moved by the scenes in Pangarap Village where families fish for tilapia in the nearby streams. Nanay Jocelyn's initiatives to make a meal out of whatever they catch speaks volumes about the resourcefulness of these families. Yet, it makes me think, should it really be up to them to find food in this way?
That's a great point, Rachel. It raises questions about the government's responsibility in supporting these communities, especially during crises like the pandemic. Too many people like Tatay Benjamin have lost stable jobs due to lockdown. In their pursuit of survival, they're forced to rely on nature or uncertain sources of income.
And it doesn't stop there. In Fairview, I Miss Atwita's story was heartbreaking. A previously employed woman reducted to begging on the streets for her children's survival is something that no one should have to experience. Her journey teaches us about the loss of dignity that often accompanies poverty and how it can spiral into a cycle that's hard to escape.
Amy's determination to care for her child, despite her shame and struggle, highlights the everyday heroism of so many parents. It's a reflection of how, when pushed to the edge, the human spirit can shine through adversity. Yet again, we're reminded of systematic failures that force people into situations where they have no other options.
While we're on the topic, let's talk about the farmers like Erlinda from Camarines Norte. Their stories resonate with me, especially given that they cultivate product for a nation that is now suffering from hunger itself. It's ironic that farmers, the people who feed us, often find themselves hungry. Many farmers don't own the land they work on, leaving them vulnerable.
Yes, and the pandemic has worsened that issue. The fact that 70% of farmers do not own their land is shocking and shed light on the systematic poverty in the agricultural sector. Without the support they need, many crops go to waste, turning excess production into lost income and potential meals.
And let's not overlook Tanay Rizal, where farmers are reaching out to organizations like Agria for help. It's encouraging to see communities looking for solutions, but we need to scale that assistance to a national level.
Right. The government and private sectors need to come together to create systems that support these farmers, not just in times of crisis, but consistently. A more equitable agricultural policy could change lives.
It's essential to remember that the issues are interconnected. The pandemic unveiled not just the physical hunger for social justice, equity, and access to resources. The conversation about food security should extend beyond meals on tables. It's about creating a framework for sustainable living.
Exactly. It's crucial that as a society, we take lessons from this documentary. We must advocate for change, support local initiatives, and ensure we're amplifying the voices of those who struggle daily.
That's true, Rachel. Seeing the struggles of people, especially children, not having enough food to eat was deeply disturbing. It made me realize how lucky I am to have access to nutritious meals every day. At first, I felt a mix of sadness and anger. It's heartbreaking to see people going hungry in a country with so much potential. Anger came from knowing that this problem could be solved if everyone had equal access to resources. I kept thinking, how can we let this happen? As I reflected more on my feelings, I realized a sense of guilt was also present. I sometimes take my food for granted, wasting a small amounts here and there. Seeing the desperation of those with empty plates made me ashamed of my past carelessness. It hit me that every piece of food matters. The documentary made me think about the lessons I can learn and the changes I can make. First, I need to appreciate my blessings more. Every meal I have is a privilege many do not share. I must make a conscious effort to not waste food going forward. Second, I realize the importance of helping others whenever possible. I may not be able to solve the hunger crisis alone, but I can contribute in small ways. Volunteering and giving food packs to those who can't afford to buy is one of the actions I can take to make a difference. Lastly, the film taught me that education is key. Many people are not aware of the extent of hunger in our own country. By sharing what I learned from the documentary, I can help spread awareness and inspire others to get involved in solutions. This documentary is difficult to watch, but it opened my eyes to a critical issue in the Philippines. The experience taught me to be more grateful, less wasteful, and more proactive in combating hunger. It's a lesson I will carry with me in how I live my life moving forward.
At this point in time, let us also tackle a challenging topic that holds immense significance for our future. What does a 3 degrees Celsius world look like? Based on the thought-provoking documentary by The Economy.
That's right, Rysel. It's easy to overlook just how daunting a rise of 3 degrees Celsius can be. Just a few degrees might seem marginal to us in our day-to-day lives. But as the video illustrates, this transition would lead to catastrophic scenarios worldwide.
Absolutely. The video opens by drawing a stark contrast. Transformations from snow to sleet, or from needing a jacket to sweltering heat. It really hits you that children born today might face weather related extremes 7 times more likely than their grandparents did.
And it's not just theoretical. The statistics reveal how climate change is already wreaking havoc globally. Rising sea levels and more severe droughts are not just distant possibilities, they're current realities for many communities. The story of Minara from Bangladesh and Israel from Guatemala are haunting but necessary to hear.
Minara's experience resonates deeply. Losing everything to flooding because of rising rivers, her word about the fruit trees she can no longer eat from, are a powerful reminder of what's at stake. It's not just a land, it's a loss of home and heritage.
Exactly, and Israel's struggle in Guatemala drives home how climate change is deepening existing inequalities. Longer dry seasons lead to famine and poverty and make survival increasingly challenging for farmers. We see a direct link between climate and migration. A known wave is pushing people toward the US.
There's the village of Togoro and Fiji, facing the relentless encroachment of the sea. Barney's reluctance to relocate highlights the emotional and cultural ties to the land. It's not just about physical displacement. Communities are physically disappearing, and it's heartbreaking.
It raises important questions about what we consider home. When family graves are submerged, how do you choose to move? This emotional toll is interwoven with the practicalities of climate adaptation. Individuals are trying to build seawalls, yet with little funding for support, they're battling against nature itself.
And let's not forget about urban areas. With half the world's population living in cities, a 3 degrees Celsius rise would lead to life threatening heat. Minara's flight in Dhaka captures that too. Even at night, it's unbearable.
Right, and that story encapsulates what a lot of people in slums face. For the most vulnerable, the future may turn deadly without immediate action.
But here's the hopeful part. The film emphasizes the need for adaptation and mitigation. We can change our trajectory through action, investing in renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and climate education.
Totally agree, Rysel. This isn't just a cry for help, it's a collective call to action. We need to advocate for policies that support these transitions and empower communities worldwide to adapt. Taking steps can make a difference.
Well, for me, the documentary paints a grim picture of a world warmed by 3 degrees Celsius. It's hard to imagine the suffering and displacement that would result. The stories of Minara, Israel, and the people of Toguro are heartbreaking. They are losing their homes, their livelihoods, and their cultural heritage. They're not just statistics, they're real people facing real consequences. It's clear that climate change is not just an environmental issue, but a social and economic one as well. It's scary to think about the future, especially for children born today. They'll face a world with more extreme weather, rising sea levels, and food shortages. We need to act now to protect them and future generations. But it's not all doom and gloom. The documentary also shows us that there is hope. By investing in renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and climate education, we can change our trajectory. We can create a future where everyone has a chance to thrive. It's up to us to make a difference. We can start by learning more about climate change, talking to our friends and family about it, and supporting policies that address the issue. We can also make small changes in our own lives, like reducing our carbon footprint and conserving energy. The future of our planet is in our hands. We have the power to make a difference. Let's choose a future where we protect our planet and its people.
Definitely, it is not just an eye opener about poverty and climate change. It challenges us to rethink our role in the community and our responsibility towards those in need. It's a call to action.
Well said, Chasel. I hope our listeners are inspired to reflect on their own communities and think of ways they can help.
And remember, conversations like this can lead to greater understanding and empathy.
Absolutely, let's not forget the stories of Tatay Ben, Amy, Tatay Benjamin, Erlinda, and countless others fade away. Instead, let them ignite a movement for change.
So, what's your takeaway, listeners? What actions can you take in your lives? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more insights on critical issues affecting our planet.
Thank you for tuning in today's episode. We hope you are as moved as we were. Join us next time as we take on another significant issue facing society and the world.
Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged.